What do you say, Afro Man? Should we get the kids out the door for school today?
Let's go ahead and do it.
You can get your broom to stand up on its own any day of the year.
Mind blown.
Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna drip the dog team. Woo! Drip the dog team. Yep. There we go. Get you some of that.
You can see all of the stuff that fell. You can see the ceiling tiles. You can see the computers. You can see the desks that were shaken open. I'll show you exactly what happened. So as everything's shaking, then it actually got a little scarier. So we have these glass edit bays. This is where we do all the editing for the news. But you can see right here that the edit bays started falling apart. And in addition to falling apart, the glass started breaking. So this glass was shattering while all of this shaking was going on. It just went from not shaking to shaking violently. A lot of this stuff fell within a matter of seconds. So it wasn't one of those ones where you go, oh, look, it's shaking, and it kind of builds up. This one went violent right away, and it was, to be perfectly candid and honest, it was incredibly scary. Now we are looking at some snow coming down around South Central as we start the day. If you're coming in on the Glen, that means snow on the highway, wind out of the north, blowing some of that snow back onto the road, and other cars kicking it up. So it's going to be one of those mornings where visibility is reduced as you're driving around town and inbound. And with snow and wind, we're talking winter weather advisories across much of the region for what is currently unfolding. Now, some significant snowfall totals are expected in places like the Kenai Peninsula, and especially as you get down into Prince William Sound. So watch what happens as it starts tracking its way out to the east. It's heavy snow along coastal Alaska and down into southeast Alaska. That's where we're talking some places picking up more than a foot, widespread about 5 inches. We will see the threat of severe thunderstorms from Kansas City down into northeastern Texas. That's our enhanced risk. That's going to be the bulk of the activity. Those classic supercell shapes, kind of looking at exactly what we're seeing there. Notice some of those have rotation embedded within them. Could be those broad rotating supercells, kind of getting all that lift in the atmosphere to fuel some of those storms as we move into the next couple hours. Farther off to the north, as you get into southern portions of Nebraska, you're finding yourself in some of those severe thunderstorm warnings. As all these storms continue to lift off to the north, let me go ahead and zoom on out and say, all right, watch the motion of these storms. In between, what you have going on here, this is actually quite incredible. I'm going to just show you something quick. Notice these storms moving from west to east, kind of a big bow here. And that's really what's giving us some of that gusty wind, some of that support with those gustier storms. And then back out to the east, we have counterclockwise flow around our low. You're pushing the wind together. It has to go somewhere. So in the middle, what we're getting are these storms, and those storms are continuing to fire off. Thankfully, not quite as severe, but you guys are in it. We're looking at those storms kind of hanging out in a very similar area to where they've been throughout the entire day, so the flood concern is on the rise across that region. Low pressure right here, and it tracks farther out to sea. That would mean more snow along some of those coastal areas. But if our low tracks closer inland, that would push a lot of that snow farther inland. We'd see a lot more rain along some of those coastal areas. In the coming days, this thing really starts to get itself together and really starts to develop. As all of these snow showers move into the Rockies of Colorado, the low itself will start making its way out into the plains and develop into what we call a Colorado low. Very, very classic Colorado low here. And here's that trough that we were talking about. Looking at digging all the way to the south, and that's really what's going to help support this whole storm system as it makes its way out into the plains. A whole lot of snow on the backside of this is how this thing starts to unfold. It moves out into the plains, but look at what we have going on. From the plains of Colorado straight on through the upper Midwest, we start to feel the cold behind this. This is where temperatures are going to plummet. Chris talked about that plummet in the northwest, but then that's going to make its way south. We have upper level low. That's going to cut off, and that's also going to add support to it. Let's say you're out in the plains, central Mississippi Valley. You're going to start to feel those above average temperatures. You're going from really cold to really warm, and you're even going to feel some humidity along with this. So as this low starts making its way out, we are going to see rain out in front of it. out in front of that cold front as well. On the northern end, where we have this warm front, we're even going to see a wintry mix as far north as northern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, and even central Michigan. It's going to be that warm that far north in January. Minneapolis looks to be on the brunt of this storm on the early model runs. Now we're a couple days out. We still have some kinks to iron out with this forecast, but in general, this low is expected to make its way across the Great Lakes, and then right along that cold front, that's where we're getting the rain. On the northern end, snow, a wintry mix along it, and then wrapping around some very cold air on the backside of this. So as we get into Monday, we're looking at that making its way out toward the coast, and this is going to be a big weather maker as we get into the weekend and early next week. And something we are going to start to focus our energy on, because this is a classic Colorado low making its way out to the coast and dumping quite a bit of snow along with it. We have much more information on this and our other top weather stories on weathernationtv.com. Storm. Now you're looking at what we call the forecast cone. And the reason it's a cone of uncertainty. The hurricane could track to either side of this. It doesn't really matter about that middle line. It can go anywhere within that projected path. And as the storm itself moves into Florida, it could still move over to the east. It could still move farther to the west. And there are some atmospheric conditions at play that bring us this forecast. So let's go ahead and talk about a few of those and break down exactly what that means for folks in the area. We have what we call a Bermuda high, a massive ridge of high pressure out over the open waters of the Atlantic. Back inland, we have our mid-level trough. It's a jet stream, if you will. It's the atmospheric river that steers our weather patterns here in the mainland of the U.S. This is what brings us that fall-like chill in the air for a lot of folks across the Northeast, and even some of those frost advisories up across the upper Midwest. Now, as this mid-level trough moves its way to the east, what it's going to do is break down this Bermuda high. So the Bermuda high itself is also going to move to the east and weaken as well. So when we put things in motion, you'll see exactly what I mean. Now watch the eastern side of your screen. This right here is that Bermuda high. It's now moving out. Back behind it, we get this nice trough, and that's digging its way in, but that's also acting to push that Bermuda high away. Right here is our big player in this whole thing. Once that Bermuda high moves out, that's that western force that's moving Irma to the west. But once this comes into play, these winds right here are going to be really what starts to steer Irma in more of a northerly direction. That northern steer is going to give us the projected path that now turns Irma into scooting almost directly up the Florida coast and bringing some of those incredibly devastating impacts to folks down in Florida. For that reason, we have field correspondents in place across much of the Sunshine State to bring us the latest, and that will continue here in just a bit. Oh, but he joins me right now, and we're feeling it on this nice Friday morning. We've got those Friday morning vibes, waking up to some cooler temperatures out there, 55 here in Anchorage, but we're shooting for temps up in the 60s. What do you say, Afro Man? Should we get the kids out the door for school today?
Let's go ahead and do it.
All right. Time to push the magic button, and oh, here comes the bus. Oh, where's it? Ah, it's taking out everything, but oh, there we go. Drop off temps in the low 50s, picking them up in the mid 60s, but it is going to be smoky today, so any recommendations?
I better not give them.